or the
No, I
or
think we
the
should kick it
OG?
off. I like the segment of wait. So on your YouTube, it does not say live streaming.
Well, because it's been 3 seconds. Jesus Christ, man.
I'm refreshing it. Wait,
Patience is a
okay, now
virtue,
there's
my dog.
patience.
You know,
Yeah, there we go. One person's watching.
it's me and you.
Now I'm on top.
Yeah, I figured, mix it up. Oh, the
Uh,
other thing I got to figure out. I don't know if you
tweet a,
noticed,
I'll tweet deleted it out. What?
I'm
What did I
only in
notice?
the left channel.
Yeah, there was something with the channels when the episodes get posted.
Yeah, you're in
And
both because
but
you're coming through. All right, I got it. I should
yeah.
be on both now. I mean, I should be a lot of things. The things should work. All right, it's theme song time,
Wait, hold on,
baby.
hold on, hold on,
Ah,
hold on, hold on, hold on. YouTube dot com/Glenn Tickle. Okay, and then I'm gonna select all. I'm gonna copy that
go ahead and select these
post,
nuts.
and I'm gonna put this everywhere because fucking people are losing their goddamn
They
minds.
cannot get enough of the Daddios out there on the
So
Johnny
at
Mnemonic's web.
Glenn Tickle, and then so I'm gonna say ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam. I'm gonna share that, and then I got a Facebook Messenger. If you want, right here, you can go ahead and confirm you for January 18.
I'm 41.
Um, fuck. Okay, sorry. Wait. Oh shit! The Superman teaser is out.
The poster came out, and then I think the
I know. Oh
trailer was
shit! The
supposed to
teaser's
be.
up. Yeah, today they did it a day early
Oh,
because it was supposed to be Thursday. Sorry, I gotta watch
Jimmy
this now
G.
because now I'm gonna.
Well, this is.
Oh no, tomorrow the trailer's dropping, so now it's a teaser.
It's just like a pre thing to get you hyped for the
Yeah,
fact.
well, they did a little like a thing of the symbol, like spinning around a little bit of music. Sorry. Teaser trailer online tomorrow. Awesome. All right, I'm down for that. Let me post this last post of us. This is us. And then I will. Oh, that's right. You probably don't have access to the Daddio Instagram right now, even if I.
No, I use my phone as the
Okay,
camera for
that's a thing. Okay,
so
so
that
I
my
will.
skin looks so radiant.
Yeah.
If anybody is
Okay.
watching the live stream, this will probably get cut from the show, but I
Well,
am
yeah.
aware that my face looks like this. You know,
Yeah.
if anybody's watching, like, wow, Glenn looks pretty haggard.
Haggard.
Wonder if he knows. I know.
You know what word I used yesterday that
Piss.
it ended up Dave Pierce. It ended up not being um
I hope Brian
used
knows how
as
frequently
correctly.
I say Dave Piss to myself walking around my house.
Is Brian on the live stream?
Probably not. I
Oh,
told
okay.
him.
Um
I let him know
uh
how much I enjoy Dave Piss.
so here's the word that I used yesterday, but I didn't use it correctly. I was
You?
let me
Come
see.
on.
What
Nah.
you think I'm
You
constantly using words
use
incorrectly?
the word, but in the wrong way? That doesn't. My friend
You
Ricky
think that
Glory did
happens a
that?
lot?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. You do it.
Oh, okay.
You do it on the reg, homie.
Okay. But I was happy to use the word again. Muckraker.
Yeah. A
Muckraker.
journalist who uses scandalous stories about a political
Oh,
candidate.
I'm glad I know all the words and I'm gonna use them all correctly. All right, I'm ready now. I've watched my Superman teaser.
Does he kiss anybody? That's all I care
I
about.
post it. Yep.
Does he show his
This is your
ween?
mom. Yeah, to your
Pam
mom.
would love it. Pam would love a little smoochy kiss from Superman. All right. I'm going to hit that theme song
Yeah, that.
Hey guys and gals, come gather round. There's a couple hip cats who are coming to town. Squawking and barking and talking about things. Jiving, just diving, listening, a ring-a-ding-ding. If you want the top tip, I got your show. Sit back and tune in to Daddio. Daddio. That's right. It's tight. Daddio. Daddio. Daddio.
Hey, friends. Welcome to the Daddio Show. I am Glenn Tickle. I'm here with my friend Ricky Glore, the other Daddio of
Hey.
the Daddio Show.
Thank you for
Should
the
we
introduction.
call
That
the
was-
listeners Daddios, you think?
Yeah, that's what you said when I originally was like, we should call the show Daddios. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, that sounds like adios.
It does.
And then you said if we get fans, fingers crossed, we could call them Daddios.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
it also made sense to you.
We'll make pins. We'll make buttons.
We can do that. There's a button maker on Facebook
can do
Marketplace for like $30.
Is it?
Thought about picking it up.
Done.
Make some pins.
Done.
Make
Yeah.
some buttons, rather. You know?
I'm an official Daddio, or I'm a Daddios. Well, that doesn't make sense. Now the button idea seems stupid.
Well, it would say world's greatest Daddio, I think.
And then participant.
Yeah, we can make that. Well, I think yeah,
Do you want to hear a hot piece of trivia
sure.
that defames me?
Is it scintillating?
I'm sure. I mean, scintillation is all about the person who is hearing it or spinning it, right? That's kind of subjective, but you know the world's greatest dad participant joke that I do?
Yeah.
Or the name of my last album? Did you know I did not write that joke?
Yes.
Do you know who wrote that joke?
Someone who made a mug 30 years ago?
No. The world's greatest dad participant joke. Oh, is that like a product that's out?
Yeah, you can find that.
Oh, okay. Oh, then that makes this story.
I
less
thought it was like a
exciting.
play. I thought the whole thing was like a play. Like I've extended bits over the years
Yeah.
about a world's greatest dad mug and how desperate I am to own
Yeah.
one.
And it's almost like a choice now that your family like.
Yes, they're
like
doing
you've
it.
expressed, like
on
I would
purpose.
like to have.
Yeah,
I
they
would
all
like
know.
to have the tchotchke. Yeah.
They all know how much it would mean to me, and I think that's why they're not doing it. Which, to be fair, I
Yeah.
think they're doing it as a bit. Like they think it's funny,
Sure.
and I love that they're trying a bit. I would much rather just have the mug, you know.
Well, maybe it's because you abused them like you abused me
Well,
for so long, and they
honest-
just
Honestly, yes, that's the implication here is that I don't have one because they don't think I deserve it.
Well, so my joke came from a famous comedy writer who I respect pretty much, and we got talking on the Twitters, and he was supposed to be a guest. He is aloof. He is an aloof man who is no longer in the business.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Who is it? Who do you think?
Oh, I don't want to say. I thought you were being cagey on purpose.
No. No, I'm gonna say it.
Is it A. Whitney Brown who hopes to one day be the
100%.
Whitney Brown?
It is A. Whitney Brown. It is A. Whitney Brown. He was supposed to be a guest.
A. Whitney Brown, come on, Daddio.
Oh, I just was texting with him the other day because he had to bring up Marin. I love that. We just keep on. I'll keep on bringing up Marin and be like, hey, you know, a better podcast you should all check out. He doesn't do any interviews. No longer in the business. He is an Obi-Wan Kenobi hermit of a man.
Yeah.
And he did an interview with Marin because I think Marin was in Texas where he lives now. And I think just went to his house and had a relationship with him. And one of those things of like, he canceled on him, then he said he'd do it, then he wouldn't do it. A. Whitney Brown, I connected on Twitter and just, gosh, this is 6 years ago. Just by chance, his DMs were open and I sent him a message and I was just like, hey, big fan of yours. Big fan
Same.
of your work on SNL. Big fan of your work on a Daily Show. I also love that
I
he's
think he's
not
great.
one of the Harvard writer hires. Even though he has that kind of appearance, he's not part of that, you know, how SNL loves hiring Harvard writers.
Did he
a
do
big-
Marin a couple years ago? I feel like there was a
He just did it. Like months ago.
yeah. It was like pretty recent? This
Yeah,
year, you think?
it's a great. Yeah. I think it's a handful of months ago because I was just looking for because I don't listen to Marin on the regular. I do it based on the
I do it based
guest
on
if I'm
guest.
interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I listened to I just randomly DM'd him some handful of years ago when I was doing a comedy podcast called Laughs Per Minute, and we'd have guests come on. I was doing it through iHeartMedia, and like in the studio is legit. And so I sent him a message like, "Would you like to be a guest on it? We're just talking about stand up, how you started." The format was MC feature headliner.
Yeah.
So tell us your story.
The thing
using the
is, I
conventions.
keep forgetting that other people are ostensibly supposed to be listening to this. So whenever you start a story that I know, I want to be like, "Yeah, man, I know. I've listened to you. I listened to it. I know. I remember that show. You were doing that when you reached out to me initially, so I like listened to a bunch to make sure you weren't a psychopath."
Oh, is that how you first like? Is that
You
how I passed
emailed
the
me.
threshold?
You're like, "Hey,
Yeah. No,
I want you to produce my album," and I said,
know.
"Absolutely not. I would rather eat a bag of gravel."
You forwarded me the link to the produce your own album
Yeah,
article that you did, and I'm like, yeah, I know, my man.
that's how I know you are.
That's how I found you.
Yeah.
And you were like, I tried to be like, hey, here's maybe a few credits that I'm not just like, maybe it might be alluring for you to do it. And you're like, look, thank you. You're like, I don't want to produce your album. That's why I wrote.
Correct.
That's why that article exists, is to tell
Anyone
people
who
to do it
anyone
themselves.
listening, I also don't want to produce your album.
No, and I keep on
don't
sending you people.
like doing it.
Yeah.
I've had people, the homie Joel Byers has been
Yeah.
checking in quite frequently about how to put a label together. I know he was working with Yoshi So on putting his special out.
Mhm.
I'm happy to ask questions about it. I'm happy to help people. It is all the parts of it that I don't like is the stuff I have to do for someone else. Like doing it for my own stuff all feels like part of doing a fun little project. When I have to do it for someone else, it's just homework, and that's
100%. I get that because I have been getting emails because my email's out there. It's easy. My phone number, I'm sure, is out there.
I'll give it
as
to any
well.
listener who leaves a 5-star review. I will give you his home address.
OnlyFans.
Yeah, whatever you want. I'll give you all the info. I'll give you my full Ricky Glore dossier.
On how to kill Ricky Glore.
Yeah, it's the whole thing about stabbing him I mentioned in the last episode.
It's like step 1, take out the knife. Step
just
2,
put it
stab
in,
Ricky.
Put it in Ricky.
Step 3, watch him die.
Mm-hmm. It's not hard. Yeah. Like,
not respond to.
I'm
his
sure you'd put up a struggle, but if I'm armed, I could take you.
If it was you, the struggle would be the betrayal that I would be going through of just being like, I can't believe you did this.
Halfway through bleeding out, you're like, I don't get. Is this a bit? I don't get.
Yeah, I don't. Why? Why would he do this? Did I do something to him?
Meanwhile, I would be laughing so hard.
So that guilt, and I would be like, why is he? It must be a bit.
Yeah,
it must be a bit.
He must
I'm getting
think this is
bitten
very
right
funny.
now.
Well, because now there's like a real setup punchline of it. Remember when we talked about it on the show that this is how you can go out? I would be crying laughing.
So my guilt plays into this story of I will change.
Oh yeah, we were talking about A. Whitney Brown before I again threatened
Brown, but
to murder you.
I'll wrap up the Glenn Tickle doesn't want to produce your album, which should be the name of your next album, or a show about how to. It might be. Don't tempt me with
reluctantly produced by Glenn Tickle.
At gunpoint produced. We recreate the National Lampoon gun to the head of the dog, but it's gun to the head of you producing my album.
Yeah.
I want to figure out what that picture is of like what does it look like to produce an album? Like what is a singular picture?
It's spreadsheets and it's boring. That's the
so,
thing.
Similarly, for everything you just said about I don't want to produce your album, what you said to me, and I wore you down, and we'll travel backwards from this story to get back to A. Whitney Brown, is people have been emailing me or messaging me and saying, hey, I have this hot new horror script. you should direct it, or do you want to direct it? Do you want to read it?
Mhm.
And if anybody's heard me on anything, I don't read. I don't like reading. I think because my ADHD, I get very sleepy
Yeah.
when I read. So I like audiobooks. I like watching film. I like listening to music. Do not like reading. Have never liked reading. If I do read, it's usually nonfiction, and there's some
Pornography.
historical aspect to pornography. And the man put his penis between her milky white breasts. Um, if anybody, that was a little bit of a reference to League of Their Own, one of my favorite movies. They're trying to teach the illiterate girl how to read, and it's with romance novels. Anywho, I just got an email not too long ago. It was just like, hey, I'm this person. I have representation if it matters. Do you and your producers want to make my movie? It's a almost one location slasher movie
Mhm.
in the vein of like a Terrifier. And I'm like, that's great. Like they wrote a good email to be like, oh, and maybe this could make you money and maybe you want to do this. And I wrote back, I was just like, thanks for thinking of me. Thanks for being interested in what I do. In no fucking way do I want to make your movie.
Yeah.
It's hard. I don't have a loss of ideas.
Right.
Like I have too many ideas. It's focusing on what idea that I'm going to abandon my family and be passionate about and go crazy and wear all the hats in the world
Yeah.
of this gypsy production company
Mm.
to make this $20,000 thing. So no thank you. I don't want to make your thing, but best of luck. You should, especially if it's a one location and you think it's a good idea. Great. It's so easy and hard and possible to make your own movie. But you with the album, I remember I didn't know you listened to Laughs Per Minute to like check me out. But I do know I invited you to a show with Jason Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. In Pennsylvania, where he emceed, you featured, and I headlined. And that was the first time we met in person, seeing each other perform in person, because I had listened to your first album and thought it was fantastic. Loved your style of humor.
Thanks.
Loved your, like, just thought you were incredibly funny. And I did, as I said to you, you're like, you should produce your own album. I was like, and here you're like, I'll walk you through it. Like,
Yeah.
I'll fucking hold your hand. You're like, you even went that far. And I was like, no, I want the validation of somebody else doing it. So I invited you to the show, and I was like, I think I was paying you, not a ton, having you do a show, but I was like, this is the last time I will ask you, see me perform.
Yeah.
Even if you like me and you still are like, I don't want to produce your album, we're high new comedy friend, like, and that's the end of it. Maybe our paths will cross again. But at the end of the show, I don't know what it was. If you were feeling extra generous that day, you were like, all right, I'll produce your album.
Well, the boring real reason is like you made it very clear. You're like, I'm not going to do it myself. I'll find someone else to produce this album.
Yes.
And I liked your set and the stuff that I'd heard before we actually met, like on the pod. I'm like, you seem like an okay guy to work with. I like your material. You're like, no, I'm going to make somebody else produce this. And it came down to like, well, if somebody else is going to do it, it might as well be me. Like if I would never have talked you into letting me do it, you know?
Yes.
And that's
Understood.
not you specifically. Like
that's you like reaching out to venues. That's the same thing. It's like you are not
yes.
You will make your own opportunities for you to help you succeed
Yeah.
and take over the world. But you are not going to be like doing it on somebody else's behalf, or
I would rather, if I want to do a show in Des Moines, Iowa, or whatever, I would rather find a small venue, just rent it for a night, put on a show, than reach out to like a club there and be like, hey, here's my credits. Like, can I come do an hour of comedy for a comically small amount of money? Like,
convince, right? That's that thing of like, without representation, like most comedians at our level, and you are a few steps above me.
I don't think that's true.
in notoriety.
In
I put
notoriety.
you
Yeah.
in notoriety. Yeah. I think so. And as far as comedy goes, as far as stand-up goes,
As far as
I
horror
put you
movies go, you got me beat by a mile.
But it's that crazy thing of on our own reaching out to a place which already diminishes how we look because we don't have someone speaking on our behalf,
Yeah.
validating us. We then are made to convince a stranger that needs people to fill dates for venues that people will come for shows. We then are made to convince them that they should let us, for less money than they will make,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a business, book us, give us a date. It's not completely like hand to mouth, like it is selling our wares, but
it is.
It's hard.
I find it distasteful. Is honestly what I don't like money. I like having enough of it that I can like
Agree.
feed my children. But the whole concept of it, I don't like it as a system. But that's the one that we got, so I got to do enough work to get enough money. But I mean, I'm not begging for stage time, you know? Like,
Yeah, and convincing them that like you are a comedian.
yeah.
Like,
well, you talked about
yeah.
like the validation of like, oh, I want the validation of someone else putting out my album. I don't care about that at all. I want the validation of people telling me that the thing that I make is good, but I want audiences to give me that, not a booker. Like if a booker thinks I'm funny, I don't care at all. Like your opinion of comedy,
your taste.
Like my first college agent, shout out to Gigi Greg, best in the biz. He booked me. He had not seen me perform before signing me, and then hadn't seen me perform for like well over a year before.
He's never seen me perform, and he booked me based off of your vouching.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that as a knock against him. I've told people this story, and they're like, "Wow, it sounds like he's not very." No, he's great.
No, he's doing it the way you should do it. Like if you have enough kind of like references or experience.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, experience stage time doesn't necessarily translate into getting better or growth. But if you have a dry bar special, just that alone, or a Bob and Tom credit or something like that.
Like you can get booked in the Midwest just by the fact that we've been on dry bar, you know?
Yeah, and you should. I have had to jump through hoops, and it's what makes me so bitter in some areas. And it goes back to that validation where I do want it because I just want that shorthand of just give me fucking stage time. Just book me to entertain this group of strangers. Like, I don't want to have to be like, I need to find a place that I can do an introduction and a non-edited 5-minute set where it's the best. And I'm trying to get booked for a 40-minute or a 30-minute, but I need this 5-minute to convince everyone enough. Like
it's
I
the
hate,
thing.
Like,
there's like this idea. I think we were talking about this over text between now and the last episode. But I hate when people like after shows, if maybe you don't have a good set and they're like, "Hey man, keep at it. I think you got something. Like you might keep trying. You might make it." I've made it. Like the goal was be a working comedian. That's what I am. I'm not super famous, but my goal is not be super famous. My goal is get to do comedy. And as far as that goes, I'm crushing it. The benefits of being famous is then you get to do more comedy. Like I would love it if, I think I have like 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. I would love it if it was 200,000 because some of those people would buy tickets to see me. Like, or just more people would watch videos and then I would get money. My favorite thing in the world. But
it's in like a business, like a manufacturer. You are a manufacturer of comedy and of jokes. So if you got more business,
correct,
that would make you work even more to keep fresh and funnier.
I look at it. I was trying to explain. I did. basically a workshop on the business of comedy for it was
Yeah.
a class that was taking like a stand-up class. I came in 1 week and I was like, here's like what you need to know.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. I'm
Did
like,
you?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm like, here's what you need to know from a guy whose job this is. Like, here's what you think you are getting into. Here's like the practical reality of like, you know, do you have a separate credit card for comedy? Do you know like what can you write, like that stuff? Like boring.
Mhm.
This is my
Yeah.
day-to-day business side of doing
Texas.
comedy.
For the 1099
Yeah.
at the end of the year, here's how you can. Yeah.
Here's what you need. And I was doing that, and I was trying to explain to them. I was like, I think what a lot of people don't consider is the idea of like comedian as recording artist. Of I am always working towards the next album, special, whatever. Like, I
And the difficulty of the self-booking and booking shows and getting people for that validation or whatever to book.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel financially stable enough that I have enough notoriety to book that place and
Oh, it's a
Dakota
real
or
gamble,
Iowa.
baby. Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes you book the place and nobody comes. Other times, you do a show in a small town you've never been to and it sells out because weirdly
That's hedging
that
the
town.
bets.
Yeah.
That's where this podcast comes from. Is I thought I was doing that by being like, not only do I get to have fun time with my friend comedy person that I respect in the comedy they do and like watching them, Glenn Tickle, and I like the drive or whatever of going to gigs or whatever and hanging out and spending like the slumber party of being in a hotel room together and blah blah blah. That's why I did the Florida thing, because I was just like, all right, two dry bar comedians, like
Yeah.
they might not know who we are, but again, that we have been validated enough that I would think it would make people to buy tickets. Granted, it being Sunday through Tuesday, maybe that was the misstep, but that's how those places wanted to take the chance on us and do that.
Right.
So we did that at established places that have shows, and no one came. So the idea of us just be like, I want to do another album too.
Well, that's
you and I texted about this.
I give not new like comics considering doing their first album or whatever. The advice, I think I put it in that article that I keep meaning to like update because I wrote it in 2016, and things are slightly different now than 8 years ago. But the recommendation is like, well, find the biggest venue that you can fill comfortably. Like that's probably going to be close to home. And now I've done I did an album and then a special years later in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I don't want to keep doing them in the same at different rooms in the same venue. I don't want to keep doing the same venue, like that feels a little, hey, your parents are having friends over. Like everybody's got to listen to the kid tell a couple minutes of jokes before they go to bed.
That's the validation, but you are also incorporating growth.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
want
mean,
the
I had
validation that a different venue would
Yes.
have you do this because you've done it for X amount of years and it's done well.
But
or
I've
it's
also
well
done
enough.
I felt comfortable going back to that venue, Steel Stacks in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
I perform there regularly, a big fan. But the reason it didn't feel like sad or desperate to go film a special at the place I did my first album because it's 30 minutes from my house and I can get people to come out was, well, in the time between first album and most recent special, I did the Dry Bar in Utah. I filmed another hour in Brooklyn. I toured.
What about that
pretty
half an hour in
extensively.
Florida? What about that one? Was that Joker's TV or something?
Oh, God, Jokey TV. R.I.P.
Jokey TV, yeah.
Yeah, that was, I believe, 15 minutes.
Real quick, because as soon as yours came out, like I hit you up, I was like, oh, I did that thing, comedians do it.
Who
It
books
can be
that?
annoying at times.
Yeah.
like who books it? And I was just like, oh, okay, because I would like to do it, and you gave me your feelings about it, and you're like, yeah, but I had material to put on there, and blah blah blah. And like as soon as like yours came out, not too much time afterwards, it was done.
Yeah, I went to I was trying to find that clip because I genuinely didn't remember what jokes I did. So as I was getting ready to do Crime League, I was like, well, if there's a joke on that set, I want to like. But then by the time when I went to find it and I realized it didn't exist anywhere in the world, there's like a trailer. Excuse me. There's like a trailer for it, I think, that you could find on YouTube where it's just like a couple lines out of context. I was trying to remember what jokes I did. Couldn't find it. And I was like, oh, okay. I filmed ostensibly a TV, like a streaming TV set in Nashville that has not come out. Was supposed to be out.
Zanies?
Well over a year ago was the last update I've heard about it. Might never come out, but that's not super uncommon.
It was for like Dusty Slay Presents.
No, I don't know if I want to say because it might still come out.
Okay.
But it wasn't Dusty Slay. But yeah, it was like a comedian presents, and it was like, people doing 10, 15 minute sets. No, it was.
Did I guess it right?
No, you didn't. It was A. Whitney Brown. But
not the Whitney Brown. It was a Whitney Brown.
Just one of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, that might never come out, but I don't know. It was fun.
Oh, I filmed. I filmed a whole special.
Yeah, but it's that thing of like the validation. It's like, I don't need
April
the
or
validation
by a group
of.
I don't understand why they don't release it.
Yeah, I get because like they were filming a lot of comedians. It was like they're basically filming a season of like Premium Blend to put it in. I'm sure there's a dozen examples, but that was the one when I started watching
it as
comedy.
A package,
yeah,
put it on. Well, it's like whatever the Netflix thing is, not the character. The characters is one. That's the one what they were doing. Yeah, where it's
everybody's just doing short
comics,
sets. Right? But it's you just have a bunch of people record 10, 15-minute sets in a night. Put it out as a season of television. It was that. I don't know. I mean, I hope it comes out. I feel good. The set went well. It was my first time at Zanies. I have a beer from the green room that I stole on my bar over there. Stole. It was.
It was
I
available.
took.
I'm sure.
It was offered. It's just instead of drinking it, I just took it home with me.
Is it like a special beer?
Yeah, it's like Zanies.
Oh, okay.
Branded.
I was like, okay, so you took a Bud Light from the one green room where you're in, like.
No, it's like it's like a can that says Zanies on it. So I just yoinked that instead of drinking it.
I'll wrap up the A. Whitney Brown story.
Yeah.
Reached out to him. Twitter, was talking to him, was like, hey, we're doing this show. Would you want to be guest? He's like, yeah, here's my phone number. Scheduled it. In the meantime, was chatting with him via Twitter messages, DMs. And I don't know why or how it got into it about writing jokes. And he's just like, he's like, I don't really perform anymore. And I sent him something about being a dad and a joke I was working on. And he wrote back the world's greatest dad mug participant joke. And I was just like, oh, I love that. I was like, have you ever used that? And he was just like, no. He's like, it's yours if you want it. And I was like, okay. And then like when that ended up becoming the name of the album and everything, I was just like, man, I mean, it did. Like I wrote a lot of stuff around it and after it, and it opened the door for stuff. But I was just like, I love that. That isn't, for me, it's an A. Whitney Brown joke. This comedian, like, because similarly, I started a relationship with Norm Macdonald that way, was just via Twitter, and then got to work with
a physical relationship. Were you intimate with Norm?
Yeah. I was intimate with Norm. But that just was to say, then when it came time to record the episode, we were in the studio and our producer's calling A. Whitney Brown and he's just not answering. And so that week we just canceled the episode, or we did an episode without him. I don't remember if it was mentioned in the episode or not.
Yeah.
Lauren and I, the co-host, might have just done an episode, just the two of us. But it was then... I was building furniture for my first daughter in her room, and I got a phone call. And this is like weeks later. And it comes up on caller ID, A. Whitney Brown. I was just like, okay. This dude ghosted and like no response, no apology, no nothing. Calls and he's just like, hey man, we had a big storm and I had to fix the roof of my house that night and blah, blah, blah. And this is like weeks later. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. We just ended up talking about how Mike Nesmith was a good friend of his, and I was a big fan of the Monkees. And I was like, I didn't even know that connection. We basically did the interview, not recorded,
Just over the phone
for
as
like
buds.
2 hours, just chatting while I built baby furniture. And so over the years, every now and then I'll just text him, and then or he'll text me something weird. And when his episode of Marin came out, I was like, God,
Good thing
that's
there
the
wasn't a
episode, like,
storm.
I was like, well, yeah, I was like, that's the interview I wanted to do
Right.
fucking 6 years ago, because he's a recluse, or recluse or whatever.
Recluse.
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 It sounds, yeah, that's got to be a French word. But so I sent him a text. I was just like, hey, heard you on Marin, great episode. And then so we chatted a bit again, and he was just telling me all the stuff he's doing that isn't comedy and has no interest in doing comedy. I was just like, all right, awesome, man. But that is another way to come back to what we were talking about. So I feel like the first part of this episode was Glenn and Ricky talk about what they hate about comedy and stand-up and the position we're in. Now let's connect what we were doing last episode is the Mount Rushmore of comedy, who we love in the comedy sphere.
Oh yeah, I meant to like think about this over the course of the week and didn't.
But you said you knew your answer then.
Yeah, I mean,
I will remind you. I didn't remember it was 4 heads. It is. Do you know the 4 heads?
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and your mom.
Real outlier. A real outlier.
Which everyone's
the,
like,
the 4th head.
Mrs. Glore. What's she doing up there?
What is Jackie Glore doing up there?
Roosevelt, Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
He's right. It wasn't it Bill.
Who is your mother?
When he was president?
Teddy Roosevelt's your mother.
Who is my?
That's
Okay,
why
but
you got such a big stick.
Who is the Mount Rushmore of comedy for you? Doesn't have to be stand-ups, just people who are humorist.
Oh, if it's not, see, I was just doing stand-ups. Steve Martin is my go-to answer for favorite stand-up. Obviously, doesn't do it anymore. Will tell a joke while playing the banjo. You love to see it. Screws around with Martin Short on stage sometimes. That's always fun. Yeah. But like just in terms
physically,
just
like
in terms
they just blast each other on stage.
Yeah, just in terms of guy I saw on TV when I was a kid, where I was like, as you know, as a 7-year-old, I don't know exactly what this is, but that seems good. I think I want to do. It was the episode he did of the Muppet Show, so like Fozzie Bear was as equally important, but Fozzie Bear's not a real person, so. And it feels like if I'm getting interviewed and like, who's your favorite comedian? And I say Fozzie Bear, I might as well just ride away on a unicycle while blowing a kazoo. Like,
yeah.
But it's not untrue. Like that episode.
I think put him up there. Put Fozzie up on your Mount Rushmore.
If we're doing not just stand-ups, then Fozzie Bear takes Teddy Roosevelt's spot. And because
that's a good replacement.
Because the Steve Martin episode of the Muppet Show, if people don't remember, he shows up. Kermit he realizes they don't have enough acts for like upcoming episodes, so they're auditioning new talent. And so Steve Martin gets there. And he's like, "I'm ready to do the show." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we tried calling your agent. We had to postpone because we're auditioning new acts." And he's like,
"Well, excuse me."
So he keeps coming up to audition for a job he's already gotten. Pretty funny. But then also Fozzie is so worried that Kermit is going to see an act that he likes better than Fozzie, that Fozzie is going to get replaced. So there's like another bear comedian and like Fozzie like launches him off the stage. And then there's like another girl pig. So Miss Piggy gets jealous. So just the anxiety of, I really want to do comedy, but what if someone's better than me and I don't get to do it anymore, was like baked in from the jump as a child.
Well, and what's great about the Muppet Show's episode of Steve Martin, or if ever they had like a Gilda Radner or whoever, or Bernadette Peters or a Madeline Kahn or something, they were, as a kid, that kind of SNL light, right? It's the variety show aspect. and you see a lot of these crossover, but it was the less the drug humor or any of the adult humor or the taboo stuff that was going over your head. There was still plenty of that in when they were on the Muppet Show, like with Steve Martin. But I remember seeing that, and then I remember seeing him hosting SNL and being like, "Oh, it's the guy from the Muppet Show."
Yeah. Oh, he's friends with the Muppets. He knows my friend
he's
Gonzo.
cool.
Yeah. Well, because as a kid, you're watching the Muppet Show. You don't know who the adult on the show is. You don't know who Madeline Kahn is when you're 7. But then, like, as you go back and you're like, oh, all right, now I know who Milton Berle is. But
Well, it's the gateway of like, then you watch something like Blazing Saddles.
yeah,
And again, it's that comfortable thing of just like, oh, I don't know who Mel Brooks or Harvey Korman or Madeline Kahn are, but I know they're friends with the Muppets, so I'm going to give them the time of day.
yeah.
And then you find out, oh, yeah, they're awesome. Like,
Sure. So Steve Martin and Fozzie Bear are up there for sure. I was still
so you got 2 more spots.
I was still pretty focused on stand-ups. I'm going to put Maria Bamford on there as well.
Solid pick.
She can be Lincoln, I guess. I don't know if we have to match them 1-to-1. Steve Martin is George Washington. Fozzie Bear is Teddy Roosevelt. Maria Bamford is Abe Lincoln. Who's going to be Jefferson?
You're going to make your person of color comedian
Ooh,
Jefferson?
Thomas Jefferson.
I mean, you do whatever you want to do.
Well, now it's just like, well, I only got one more spot, you know? When it's 4,
Now it's
you're like,
fucked
oh,
up.
yeah, I can think of a bunch.
You can bounce Fozzie. This is like a draft. This is like NCAA, and give us maybe 3 honorable mentions or 4 honorable mentions.
I think maybe
that are ready
Fozzie
to
gets bumped
usurp.
to honorable mention.
Yeah.
It might be recency bias. I just saw Gary Gulman this week.
Ooh, so good.
One of the best to do it. And at first I was a little disappointed and it was like billed as the Misfit Tour. That's the name of the book that he just put out. When he started doing the material, and it's like, oh, is he just doing like the joke versions of the book that I already read? Because I would love to hear jokes I didn't read already. So like it's like a similar opening to the book, but it is not that the whole time, I was relieved.
Good. Yeah.
But he just did Birbiglia's podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about like a joke that he has in progress, and that was the quickest turnaround for me of hearing a comedian talking about, hey, do you think this is funny, to seeing it performed outside of like my friends asking me what I think of a joke, you know? Yeah. So they were going over this bit about like Jesus workshopping sermons, basically. And then he did that episode a couple weeks ago, saw him on stage, and it was like, oh, it is like a much funnier version than what they were talking about on the show, which was already like pretty funny. There were like a couple funny lines, but then like see it performed, and it's just like pretty long bit that I really liked. So I think maybe Goldman goes up there.
Man, so Goldman is your Jefferson.
He might.
Bamford is your Lincoln. Martin is or does Goldman bump Fozzie?
No, I'll give him Jefferson. So then the question is, who's going to be Teddy?
Yeah.
Have you thought about your answers?
Yeah, but I want to hear your 4 and then maybe a few honorable mentions. I also like Dead Air.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a hard time locking in the last answer because I feel like once I do that, then every other comedian dies, you know? Like they don't.
Yeah. It's the snap. They all just blow away into dust.
It's like if you don't make the big dumb stolen mountain, then then why even try, you know?
Well, the Mount Rushmore, but it's 4, it's not 5. It's the Desert Island movies, Desert Island albums. Like, who are maybe the 4? So are you picking them because you think they're the best for you, most influential?
I'm going with most influential.
If it's you like only listen. You didn't say Gaffigan. You said Gaffigan last week.
That's. I think he got. That's the recency bias thing of he might have been bumped by Goldman.
Okay.
But again, like Gaffigan's really good. If it's like, oh, you can only listen to these people, I would pick probably Gaffigan over somebody just with fewer albums. You know, just like a volume thing.
Yeah.
Like Steve Martin's great, didn't put out a ton of comedy albums. So
Yeah, 4.
and
And one of them a half music
yeah,
album.
one of it's
The
there's
Steve Martin
more there's
Brothers.
slightly more banjo every time.
Yeah. Man, but that's the thing is like, gosh, what I want to hear yours because Steve Martin is definitely so. Like, I grew up on the Road Pictures, Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, Stooges.
I kind of want to give it to my friend Kirk Griffith.
No,
in terms of comedians I enjoy watching, he's top 4. Like, anytime I get to work with him, it's always a real treat. I feel like
I mean, put whoever you want up there.
I mean, I met him. I was probably almost 10 years into comedy, so I'm not like, oh, he was so influential to me.
Influential. That's what I'm saying. It's like if you're picking influential or
but
whatever your justification is.
I love watching the kid work, and I do think he is really good at the parts of comedy that I don't think I am good at.
So that's why you respect him and you don't respect me.
Yeah, that's true and correct. Well, because like he will not like do crowd work, but he will like engage the audience in a way that I always find interesting. He's not like, oh, so what do you do for? We did a show together a couple months ago. An audience member in the front row got up to go get another drink from the bar. He took their chair. He just plucked it up, put it up on stage, sat down for a while. It was just doing material, got real comfortable. Dude came back, didn't have a chair anymore. And I'm like, perfect.
He's a scamp.
Kirk Griffiths is a scamp. He's just a little scamp. Yeah, I think Kirk might be up there. I mean, there's obviously I have a lot of comedian friends who I enjoy working with and watching.
List the 4. Tell me those big old mugs, those big faces, fat faces up on the side of a mountain, and then give me a few honorable mentions, and then
yeah, I'll go. Then it's gonna be Steve Martin, Maria Bamford. Oh, Kirk. I mean, now I'm more confident that it's Kirk than it is Gary. And again, I'm worried it's because like I watched Gary Goldman 5 days ago.
And Gaffigan. Is that it?
No.
Steve Martin, Maria
Bamford, Kirk Griffiths, and then maybe Gary Goldman.
Maybe.
But then there's like Gaffigan was huge. I mean, Bargatze, obviously, one of the best currently working. A guy I don't like. I've been compared to, like, I'm sure you get this too. Whatever clean comedian the person you're talking to can think of, that's who they're like, oh, you know who you're like. No, I'm not.
The difference is I'll talk more about hating in this positivity time span that we're in. I don't necessarily, I can respect, I don't necessarily like those comedians that they bring up when anybody says it, like a Brian Regan or Gaffigan or whoever.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you know who you remind me of this? Don't you love them? Don't you love that comedian? And sometimes I'm just like, no. I like listening to comedy that doesn't like that. I'm like, oh man, that's not what an interesting way to look at something and think about it.
The dumb guy voice that Brian Regan does bothers me so much. And he's such a good performer and writer, but when he does that voice, I can't deal with it. And it's like, it's not a fault of his. I'm not saying he's doing it bad. It's just
people feel that way about Gaffigan's like, oh man, is he gonna do this the whole show?
See, like, I like that. Like I like, sometimes he does it a bit much, I'll say, but I like that device. The voice doesn't irritate me. My 6-year-old does an impression of Stitch from the movie Lilo and Stitch that I also feel this way about, of just like, God, it's like, kid, I love you so much with my whole heart, but you have to stop talking like that. It is well, because part of it is she's 6 and doesn't nail the voice. She just makes herself sound horrible. And it's like you got to stop talking to me like that.
What is it? What does it sound like?
I can't do
What's
it.
your impression of
No,
your daughter doing
I'm
Stitch?
I'm not falling for this. I don't like it. I'm not gonna.
You did it with Randy Newman. I'm gonna wear you down.
Yeah, but that wasn't real Randy. That was just me yelling, "Hey, I'm Randy Newman" over and over again.
Yeah, I don't want you to do real Stitch. I want you to do your daughter doing Stitch.
No, I don't like the way that it sounds, so I don't want to make it. I don't want to think about it. I'm sorry that I brought it up. I don't like
Put it out
it's
in the
so
world.
irritating. That's how I feel about Brian Regan's dumb guy voice that he does a lot. And it's like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's yuck. I don't know. And it's like I'm not saying it's like, oh, how dare he denigrate dumb people? I'm not saying it is just
Some people really need someone to stand up for them.
you know how like people feel that way about hearing people chew. That's how I feel about the dumb guy voice.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, I can't explain it. I just hate the way it sounds. I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Brian Regan's
I get it.
one of the best. It's just I don't want to listen to.
I used to feel that way about Mulaney,
Okay.
where the cadence and the paper boy kind of da da da
Yeah.
da da like, which is funny because Norm Macdonald, who has a very similar rhythmic kind of higher voice, doesn't bother me. But Mulaney's did, and it took, I don't know, getting used to it, like listening to a band that everyone's just like, yeah, it's great, it's great, it's great. I'm like, yeah, the lyrics and the songs are good, but I don't know if this guy should be the one singing it. I think
Yeah.
they should sell those off. And maybe it was bias. Maybe it's because I knew he was a writer and I wasn't taking him seriously as his own performer, which he is clearly on. I mean, that dude's going to be starring in movies here soon. And he's probably going to get an Oscar. That's just the trajectory I'm seeing now with him doing like The Bear, him doing Broadway now in Simon Rich's new play.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mulaney was the same way. And then it wasn't until I think Kid Gorgeous that then that his college bit where he's just like, college is like a hooker, where they're just like, yeah, we know you came here 4 years ago. Give us more money. Like that bit, I was like, oh, this is really good. And then Horse in a Hospital. Then
Yeah.
it retroactively made me like the other stuff before that. The new guy in town. Can't think of the name of the album.
New in town.
And New in Town. And then his first album that TJ Miller brought him up on stage for. On the cover, he's wearing a hoodie. And it's
The
just
top
like
part.
real close up. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, I get the voice thing. But so are you locking in your Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, any honorable Fozzie is an honorable mention.
Fozzie Bear gets an honorable mention. Pee Wee Herman also gets an honorable mention.
Yeah. I got Pee Wee adjacent in mind, so I
Well,
feel
because-
like he gets this shit.
Again, I mean, watching that as a little kid, right? And
Brilliant.
and just vibing with it so hard and being like, man, even I'm one of 5 kids and we're all reasonably close in age. My older brother and I are 14 months apart, and my youngest brother, I think we're like just over 5 years apart, like pretty close for 5 kids. So you'd think like, oh, we'd all kind of have similar taste. Not really. The other Tickle children did not vibe with Pee Wee nearly as hard as I did. And it's just like, yeah. And especially because like Saturday morning cartoons stuff was on when it was on.
Yep.
We had the one TV in the playroom. And it's like, we had to like battle over who was watching what. And when I'd go to the mat for Pee Wee every Saturday morning.
Oh yeah.
And to just lock that in and being like, I don't even understand what a lot of this is. It's just so weird. And then getting to rewatch it all with my kids, like my 6-year-old dips back in and out every once in a while, but like I think it was her second birthday party was Pee Wee Herman themed because all she wanted to watch was Pee Wee's Playhouse. That was you sent her the pull string doll. That she will like play with lovingly for like a week, then decide it's terrifying because the pull string mechanism is 40 years old. So it just it comes out too fast, and so like it's great. But she's got a Pee Wee Funko Pop and a Cherry Funko Pop. that I forget. She put it somewhere over by the piano, and we moved it, and she got mad at us, and she's like, "No, you have to put it in a place of respect because he is Pee Wee Herman, and he died, and we love him." I was like,
Yeah, it's like the crucifix.
fair point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with Jesus.
honestly, yes.
Yeah.
It is the
It's
Pee Wee Herman
Pee-wee
Funko
and
Pop
Cherry. Yeah.
is, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just you can't put it. You can't put it on middle C. Daddy needs that.
Man,
you know.
so you know how Cherry, its arms would like go like this and like move and stuff. What if we made a like pop art, not Funko Pop, because I don't have any patience for Funko Pops.
Yeah, no, me neither. I think we got this because there was at the time not a ton of Pee Wee merch. You could get an enthusiastic child.
What if we made a Cherry that was arms spread, looking like a cross?
Just a crucified cherry.
And we crucified.
Oh, you crucified Pee Wee on Cherry?
On Cherry cross. I would put that up in a house. Like, I would just be like, our Lord and Savior Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
Like, so what I think's interesting, and then I'll segue into my Mount Rushmore. We mentioned this already with the Muppet Show being this gateway to a broader sense of the comedy that we ended up appreciating. Pee-wee was that for me. Like, I didn't know why familiar with or similar to like Anna. I think Anna has good taste in shows. I'm saying that selfishly because I like the things she's picking.
Yeah.
But I think, they're not Paw Patrol where it's this dumb, repetitive
Take
thing
that,
or whatever.
Paw Patrol.
But there's a lot of stuff that is like that. And so like she like PJ Masks for a little bit for the superhero thing, but then she found better superhero things and completely
Like my kids went through a PJ Mask phase and then they realized that there's like better versions of this kind of thing out there.
Yes. Amazing Spider-Man and Friends, or Spider-Man and Friends with the three Spider, Ghost Spider, Miles Morales, and Peter Parker.
The kid only watches that at my in-laws' house. She won't watch it here for some reason. And
it's good.
I've
it's
seen
Paw Patrol,
some
but
of
it's
it, and it's like, can I?
Or not Paw Patrol. It's PJ Masks.
I kept trying to put it on, and be like, oh, there's like a Spider-Man thing. She's like, I know, I've seen it at Mimi's house. And like her friend, she's got a friend at school who really likes Ghost Spider, because I referenced her, and I was like, oh, you probably don't know who I'm talking about. She's like, yeah, Ghost Spider. She's Spider-Man's friend. And I was like, yeah, oh, okay. I didn't know you do Ghost
Best
Spider.
friend's dad.
And she's like, yeah, everyone knows that. I was like, no, not
stupid.
Oh, because I was trying to get them to watch the Spider-Verse movies. And
first one I could see. Second one's a little heady, I think.
Yeah, the question of whether or not the third one is ever actually going to get made takes up so much of what I think about in a day. Where
my brother was so pissed when he saw because he's kind of written off superhero movies. He's got the fatigue.
Yeah.
But he really, really liked Into the Spider-Verse, the first one. And then when he saw the second one, he was excited to see the second one, really enjoyed it up until he realized, are you fucking kidding me? This is part 1 of 2.
Yeah. A thing they were pretty upfront about, actually.
He didn't know, but he doesn't like watch. He's not online. He's not on social media.
It's Empire. Like it tells a complete story, right? It tells Gwen's story in part 2.
Yeah. And
it sets up Miles' story for part 3. Like,
yes. You
could say the same thing about Empire, be like, oh, that's not an ending. Like it is. Like he rescues everybody, but at the price of his hand finding out Vader's his father, and it sets up what will be part 3.
Now, all the technology in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the motherfucker still got to get a robotic hand.
Yeah. As opposed to what? Like growing one like a salamander?
Synthoid hand or something. I just love that his hand is less advanced than some of the robots that exist in this world.
'Cause now, you fool. You absolute.
It's got skin. But it's
you
fake
absolute
skin.
dunce.
Mechanism underneath.
Have you ever
is like
seen a movie? So how did he lose his hand?
Vader.
Darth Vader
it.
cuts it off. What is Darth
His
Vader?
dad.
More machine than man. How does Luke defeat Darth Vader?
I get it.
By
with
using
humanity.
using just a little bit of the dark side to win that. Just a little. He goes a little dark there, right? He gets a little. He leans into the anger a little bit, like I don't know, one hand's worth of total body mass. So he loses the hand, gets replaced by a part, because now he's a little bit more like Darth Vader than he was before that fight.
100%. I get it.
No, you don't. I just explained it to you because I'm a movie genius.
I'm
goddammit.
questioning the story and the emotions.
If it was goo, if it was a goo hand, Darth Vader's not made of goo.
Goo man.
He should have been. You're right. That would have been way better.
Take off my helmet. Let me see you with my own eyes.
He just slurps out of there. It's just
and it's like, oh,
canned
Jesus,
cranberry sauce coming out on the plate,
and like grapes for his eyes. Just like,
and you know he smelled terrible under there.
So bad.
Oh,
so bad.
And Luke
because it's like
can't.
it's like removing a cast.
Yeah, you know Luke
like,
can't react.
Yeah, he's like,
I want to look at you with my own eyes. Oh God.
And he's like, how do I look? And Luke's like, beautiful. I'm emotional, not from the smell.
Oh, I'm tearing up from feelings, not. Oh God.
Okay, my Mount Rushmore of comedy. It is going to be very similar to what I think when you start with your Steve Martin of how, like with Pee Wee Herman being an honorable mention, how seeing certain things, I can see the trajectory of what my taste in comedy ended up being from the very early stages of the influences. My number one, gosh, Steve Martin's not going to be up there. He should be for everything. I mean, I remember getting Steve Martin live at the Hollywood Bowl or the Universal Amphitheater, one of those two, VHS tape. At the beginning was the dumbfounded waiter or the something where it's a sketch,
absent-minded
it's
waiter
film short.
Yeah.
Yes, absent-minded waiter, and it's Paul Simon's in it. Like it's so good. Like I remember watching that VHS snap clamshell so much. That was the first stand-up special I ever watched. I didn't, besides the monologues in SNL of like the OG SNLs, that is the first like this is stand-up, and then I was just like. Then Robin Williams, live at the Met, moved on from there. My Mount Rushmore, Phil Hartman, for the similar reasons of why Pee Wee is in your honorable mention. Anything and everything that man has done, I have enjoyed. And I love how his mind works.
He's a good one.
His album that was released post his death by his brother is so good. And before I even understood, it's so good. It's a sketch album basically. It's radio show kind of thing, like audio sketches. Love it. If you like Phil, you're gonna love it. And then figuring out, like I also grew up loving Pee Wee Herman, and then figuring out that him and Paul Rubens created it together. I also grew up on Saturday mornings. There was a block of, I don't know if it's the same channel as Pee Wee Herman, but Jim Varney had
Hey Vernon's Ernest.
Yeah,
I got that on DVD, baby.
That I used to watch, and again, that they were weird. There was some dark stuff in it. Ernest Scared Stupid. Ernest Saves Christmas scared me a little bit. There were parts of all of his stuff that I'm just like, oh, this, but I liked it. But so Phil Hartman is up there. Number 2, Gilda Radner. Now I know I just picked 2 SNL people who are not stand-ups. Again, she was one of my, not that the female comedian would have to have this. I was attracted to her in so many different ways. Like I was with Phil Hartman. I was just like,
horny?
I want to be.
Are you getting horny on the podcast right now?
Yeah, I was horny for Phil Hartman. I was like, that's a good looking dude.
Colon blow really turns you on.
He doesn't have to be the funniest person in the sketch.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
he's
like that
always
about,
like the most solid supporting.
to throw another honorable mention, I'm going to put Jack Benny in there. He was
Yeah.
another one of just like, he's not always the one saying the funny line. Like, it is all built around, he has this established persona. So all the jokes work because you are thinking he's cheap. He tells everyone he's younger than he is. He sucks at the violin. So he is the center of all the jokes, but he is more than happy to give the funny line to somebody else because he knows I will be funnier if I just react in a prolonged way than if I say the clever thing.
I was always drawn to more comedians like that. So I mentioned earlier growing up on Hope and Crosby. And even like my introduction into horror was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and then my dad was just like, "All right, you're 3 or 4, you're cool with that? Let's just watch the Universal monster movies that these things appear in." There's no comedy now, but the horror in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein isn't played for yuck yucks. Like when Frankenstein throws a body out the window, that person be dead. Like they don't bounce off an awning and like they're okay. But out of Martin and Lewis, Abbott and Costello, Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, who did the road pictures with Dorothy Lamour, I liked them, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, more for the same exact reasons that you just mentioned, Jack Benny, where I didn't like Martin and Lewis as much, and I didn't like the Three Stooges because there was a meanness.
Yeah.
And there was a look at me, where Bob Hope could sing as well, wasn't as good a singer as Bing Crosby, was a charismatic man, but like oftentimes would be the butt, like would make jokes himself, but then would be the butt and would allow it.
He sure was a butt.
So Bob Hope is an honorable mention for me. So Phil Hartman, horny for him for all the reasons. Gilda Radner, horny for her for all the reasons. It began my attraction to pale skin, dark hair, and frizzy hair.
Relatable content.
Yeah. And loved her on SNL. Again, loved the spider web that, like, then finding out that she was married to Gene Wilder, finding out this semi-tumultuous relationship she had with Bill Murray, the Chevy Chase coming back to host, and one of the reasons why Bill Murray, like 10 minutes before they go live, walked up to Chevy Chase and slugged him behind the scenes is because apparently something he did or said made Gilda cry. And like, just love that world. Haven't seen the movie yet because I just know too much about it. I don't know that it's gonna.
It's
for me.
I saw it Saturday night, and it's so removed from reality. Like
it's the Lifetime Aaron Sorkin version.
It's like Aaron Sorkin's a good comparison of like having, you know, read Live from New York. You know, heard every interview with SNL people on like I know what went down, and that wasn't it. But it's like the Sorkin thing of like, right, or the
you put a lot of things that are exciting, and you make it happen in one night.
Yeah,
because it fills the anxiety of this getting to the third act.
Right, because you have this kind of ticking clock.
It's a sports movie,
kind of. Yeah. It's like, you know, the movie starts at like 10:30 and the show starts at 11:30, so it's like, how can we make this the most tense hour? So it's like, like that's not when that happens.
Will they make it?
Yeah,
it's a 50-year-old show.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. I know. We know
Darth Vader. We know Anakin becomes Darth Vader. Like you're the
and
prequels.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid is really great in it.
I did not like
Licorice Pizza.
Licorice Pizza.
Yeah.
I did not like it, but I liked him in it.
Yeah.
So okay, we got Phil Hartman, Gilda Radner. Here comes my third SNL person, Norm Macdonald, who you
have established you had a past physical relationship with,
a hardcore sexual relationship, who I love the way his mind works. So first being introduced to him on SNL, on Comedy Central reruns, in his Weekend Update, which like I loved Kevin Nealon on Weekend Update.
Yeah.
So I liked Chevy. I liked some of the stuff when it was a two-hander, and I liked Jane for Jane Curtin one season. She was by herself. I was always drawn to Weekend Update. Dennis Miller, I thought
always
was
been my favorite part of Saturday Night Live, except for the last couple of years, honestly.
Same here. Don't like Jost and Shay.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Nothing. I don't know what it is. It seems disingenuous. And that's the one thing Weekend Update always did for me, was it seemed like stand-up. And so it seemed like everything they were saying, whether it was incredibly formulaic with the jokes, it felt like whoever the host was, typically, except for when you get to like Jimmy Fallon, wasn't present in the show. Or obviously Chevy was in the beginning, but he skyrocketed because he was himself. He was Chevy. But I always felt like that person, that was their thing. And like Shay and Jost are doing that too, but it almost feels like they are playing the roles of Weekend Update hosts.
Sure.
And again, they're obviously doing fine. I think they've been the host the longest that anybody's ever been.
It's been, yeah, I think so.
But anyway, so people didn't like Nealon because they felt that he didn't connect as much. I liked him. I liked Kevin Nealon's sensibility. But then with Norm and with Jim Downey at the helm, I was just like, oh, this, like, I love this, because there were a lot of times where it wasn't polished.
Yeah.
Where SNL had become this comedian machine of churning out. There was already this legacy by the time Norm was on there, that I'm not going to say, like how Jim Downey's like, it was punk rock, but it was just like, oh, they do sketches about like Wayne's World Public Access where people have taken over. It feels like for 10 minutes or however long the Weekend Update segment was, that this guy and behind the scenes Jim Downey, they were just given like the keys to the castle for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of time. And not everything was good. Not everything was great. But there was this electricity that I just glommed onto. And then getting into Norm and his history as a stand-up, getting to know him the little bit that I did, I loved how his mind worked. His album, his sketch comedy album, Ridiculous, I think is phenomenal. His biography, his autobiography is fantastic, where he mixes in fiction.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, and then my final is another SNL cast member / stand-up, Chris Rock. And the reason why I picked Chris Rock wasn't normally somebody who would have been up there. It would be like a Steve Martin or a Birbiglia, who is another honorable mention for me, because I do love the trajectory of Birbiglia's career, where he's gotten more into one-man showy narrative, like complete pieces. Rock has become someone that I have liked more later, so not as much Bring the Pain. I have liked him more now with his kind of revelation of being on the spectrum.
I haven't had the chance to watch. I didn't watch SNL this week because I had shows, but his I've heard people say great things about his monologue.
Monologue is fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't watch SNL anymore.
Of course it is, because Chris Rock is great at doing stand-up.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's just like the way his mind works, and the way that the tenacity of how he wants to be the best he can be.
Yeah.
at all times. Whether you agree with how he does it, if you read Jesse David Fox's comedy book, where he talks about seeing Rock perform 3 times and bombing all 3 times, how he'll go on stage in the worst looking outfit, he'll be monotone and hold his head down and just let stuff eat a dick because he wants to see what is the best, and he doesn't want just the Chris Rock laughs.
Right. He knows he can really Chris Rock the hell out of any sentence and get people to laugh at it, where it's the thing of like, if you're a well-known comedian, people who already like you want to already like you. Like they'll give you a little more leeway with some mediocre bits, and he doesn't want that. He's like, no, I want genuine reactions from people. So he will go like, not bomb on purpose, but he's like, I'm not going to sell this material. I'm just going to quietly tell it to you. And if you laugh at it in that state, then it is ready for me to like really Chris Rock it up.
And add to it.
Yeah.
And have it grow, where if you're just getting this boisterous big thing on the first thing that is said, then it's hard to, I think, continue down that path unless it's in the moment kind of thing and you're riffing.
Yeah, he doesn't want to like sell it on charm. He wants the quality of the material to stand on its own.
So again, like watching his career evolve and being someone that I was always just like, oh, he's brilliant. Honorable mentions, Steve Martin, I know this one you're not going to like, Jerry Seinfeld, Lucille Ball. I think...
Is it because she says your name a lot?
No. For the same reason this next one, but it's more the show, less of the person, but I do really... very influential. Dick Van Dyke and the Dick Van Dyke Show.
I don't know that he's ever said your name.
That show holds
Lucy
up
says
for
it
me.
a lot.
Yeah.
Like a couple times per episode.
And she wants to be in the show.
She wants to be in the show. She says your name. Like, yeah. I mean, look, Lucille Ball's great. One of the first comedy festivals I got to do was the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival in beautiful Jamestown.
Was she
New York.
there?
No. But it was the year after that terrifying statue went up. So they moved it.
Statue is nightmare fuel.
Yeah. They moved it, but that same artist has other statues around town that you could go see.
Do they look as bad as that one?
No. Like you can, if you look at them all together, it does kind of read as like style choice. But if you just look at it next to a photo of Lucille Ball, you're like, no, that doesn't.
So is there a story behind like why it looks so bad?
If you look,
like, was it like, did he make it like the day before it was due? Like he forgot that his paper was due, and it just looks like all of his statues look like his uncle.
I mean, like I said, if you walk around Jamestown, there's a couple, like there's public art around, and there's some statues by the same artist. And again, like together, it's like, okay, these are all clearly made by the same person. This is a style that maybe doesn't work as well for Lucille Ball as a subject as maybe, I think there's like a hockey play. I'm trying to remember. It was years ago. But yeah, it doesn't. I mean, sometimes people on the internet like to overreact to things because like it's fun to be part of like the group that's ganging up on something. But like, nah, it's
so there's in Salem, Massachusetts, they have a Samantha from Bewitched. Elizabeth Montgomery statue, and there is that thing when statues are done.
We talk about getting
Elizabeth Montgomery. Oh,
twitch that nose, baby,
all day. Oh, yeah.
What that nose
big fan
do
of her. Statues of women do be looking like men a lot of times because there's a hardness and the femininity and the softness to a woman is a little more difficult, I think, in a statue. But that aside from the Lucy statue looking nothing like Lucy and just looking garish, it's very scary.
The teeth. The teeth really make it the nightmare that it is.
And then you add the uncanny valley of all statues.
The eye thing, that's not this. Well, because I think again, it's we look at ancient marble statues as like white, solid things. They were painted at the time. Like
Yes.
that was part of it, and everyone's like, no, we have to preserve it the way it is now. We're like, no, slap some paint on there. It's gonna look a lot better. The eyes aren't gonna look as weird because the eyes look weird when there's nothing on them. Because when they made it, they're like, well, we're gonna slap some paint on this. It's gonna look okay when we're done with the paint.
With the paint.
Yeah. Plus the loose, it's bronze and like there's individual teeth. It's the teeth
You
is
can
what.
count the teeth.
Yeah, the teeth is what did it for me.
Other final of the honorable mention for me will be I've been a big fan of Jenny Slate post her being on SNL, her stand up. I really like watching her and the stuff that she's doing in films and indie films. But the biggest honorable mention that almost was up there, but I kept it all SNLers, is Charlie Chaplin. Just for the influence. And for the same reasons of you not liking Jerry Seinfeld, I can see you hating Charlie Chaplin as well. But
well,
for me,
I also
an influence in the world of comedy.
I mean, again, with the recency thing of like, I mean, yes, Charlie Chaplin also. I mean, also, I forget, married. Much younger, his cousin maybe was he one of the cousin ones?
No, he was Una O'Neill.
But again, if you
Eugene
look at it
O'Neill's
100
daughter.
years ago versus 30 years ago, like
90s.
yeah, like that, you know.
Oh, so time is kinder because
I'm not saying I'm giving Chaplin a pass here, but one, he's dead, so like. If I watch, The Kid, it doesn't positively benefit him in any way. But also, like, I don't know, lots of people were marrying teenagers back then. Not that it was cool, but it's wild because in the 90s, everyone's like, ooh, isn't it fun that he's dating this 17-year-old? No, it kind of sucks, actually. Like,
I love that our go-tos are Superman, Star Wars, and Jerry Seinfeld dating a teenager.
three things I think about a lot. Which is weird because I don't like two of them.
Well, talking about marrying teenagers and that thing of like older men asking the hand in marriage of a much younger person and it being more acceptable. Back in the day, we have another theme song, which is a bluegrass.
Oh, we do.
version
Yeah, this is
of,
late in the
Daddio. Sorry, because we got to be rappy and up here soon. But
I have to
if we're
jump
talking
on
about
a call about a virtual comedy show I got coming up.
If we're talking about marrying your second cousin or cousin and them being younger, I think bluegrass, it's the best way to besmirch that genre of music by
talking a big
that'd be
game
the
from
segue.
a kid from Kentucky.
Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area.
Daddio, 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 a man with spawn from his loins. Daddio, 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 a family's love is quite richer than coins. Daddio, 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 united together we join. Daddio, a show, daddio, let's go, start on the Daddio show.
That you would bring this the day after the Steve Martin Banjo Prize is awarded is an affront to bluegrass.
But how crazy is it that we these themes they come and they are these little gifts that somehow always end up connecting. And
Daddio, Daddio, Daddio. Just saying it so many times in a row got a slight chuckle. But a man with spawn from his loins. Yuck. I have a hair in my mouth, and it's only the second most disgusting thing that's happening right now.
At the end of our season, we haven't put a cap on how many episodes it is, or if we're even going to do seasons. So
No,
could
this
be
just goes
arbitrary.
weekly forever.
And until one of us is dead,
And then
you
We have
keep
to
on
name a
abusing me.
successor like Till Death Do Us Blart.
like a pope dying. We'll have to have somebody's name ready. I would love to hear what your we just Mount
Least
Rushmore.
favorite one? It's that one. By no
Least favorite?
Yeah.
You haven't laughed that hard on any of the other ones.
It was mostly out of being uncomfortable. It's so yucky.
Mission accomplished.
The OG,
Release
I
the
like
banner.
the OG. Country music, I don't really vibe with. And then the punk one,
Yeah, the Screamo. Remember those 90s TV series?
yeah. OG or maybe 90s are probably my favorite.
TV show. Okay. not the
Least
Screamo
bluegrass. I don't ever want to hear that again.
one. It's going to be our weekly themes.
Yuck.
Ah.
Hey, I
I
did
love it.
realize normally we do this Wednesday mornings, but Wednesday morning is Christmas, and I care about
Yes.
you deeply, but I don't want to do this on Christmas morning.
Similar.
So I don't know. We can figure out another time.
I'm going to be in Chicago next Monday. So I can't do Monday. Do we want to try to bank one the end of this week?
Maybe. I can't do tomorrow. I'm all over the place.
Okay.
Sunday, I think I'm around.
I'm in Chicago. What about Friday?
Maybe.
Maybe Friday morning? Or Friday midday?
Friday morning could probably. We don't need to figure this out live.
No, let's do it live on the. Let's have this be part of the episode. So before we go, I want to see. Not that we're going to be doing Berbiglia's working it out every time, but I do like the idea of like we did last episode, us mentioning you mentioned the debit card, swiping it,
Yeah.
and some jokes of that.
Oh, you mean I have
saying
to
some
write
things
a
that didn't
joke
work.
every week? Yuck.
No, you don't have to. But I'm just going to tell you one that
Oh, okay.
came up during the corporate show I did this past weekend. And
Was this
it
the one that you
so I thought
abandoned
it was-
your 1-year-old sons for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
for money. For money that will already be spent
Right,
on
that they-
the ER.
That
The ER
it's
visit
already
that we had
going
to do
towards
last
covering
month.
their continued existence.
It's already gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. But I knew it was for doctors. That's why it was so well paying. I didn't know until I got there that it was for eye doctors.
Oh,
for
okay.
optometrists and 3 different offices that they run. And so my opening comedian, Kim Sherwood, he has a joke about being colorblind, and he's like, great, I'll do that joke about being colorblind. And then I have, from my last album, floppy eyelid syndrome.
You're the
story.
second person I know who has that.
Man, it's like, okay, gosh, I was getting ready to compare floppy eyelid syndrome to having miscarriages.
Oh, no, don't. Don't. There's still
no,
time to not do that.
The way I was going to
Walk
say
it
it
back.
is you don't hear about as many people having it until you start talking about it more openly and freely.
Okay. A tenuous connection at best.
So I know, but like I don't know why people don't talk about it because I do think it's more common.
Because
than
it's
people
called
talk
floppy
about.
eye syndrome, and that's a silly ass name. That's why.
It used to be, as I know, as part of the bit, that is just word for word what happened to me. It used to be called droopy eyelid syndrome.
Yeah. Not better.
And I said droopy, like named after
Grr.
Droopy Dog. Like, no, I don't like
Hey,
you.
me.
I'm Droopy Dog. So I was like, I'm going to do that bit. So I did that bit, did pretty well. And then I went down a riff track of talking about the air blowing machine.
Yeah. My greatest
The machine
nemesis.
It just blows air.
Yeah.
And so
I hate that.
I asked, genuinely, I was like, I think does it dilate your eye? What does it do
They
really
just do
to
it to
get
mess
you
with
to
you.
That's okay. that's what ended up getting into, which was fun and doesn't feel like anything super that new, but I could write like a little bit, and I made like did a little act out of being like how they convinced over the years, like, we do this and it's funny. And sometimes I do it multiple times because I tell the kid that we didn't get it if the kid's a real a-hole. Doing that, they laughed, and I was like, they're relating to it. And a lot of people in the room didn't know what the machine was for. But then later, I somehow got back to it because my mind wouldn't let go of the fact of like, that thing has evolved. Like, it's this big machine that blows
The first draft
air.
was just a guy going like this.
100%. See, you were able to guess it. And so I went back and I was just like, so what was it before that with technology? Was it a straw? And then is it a dude? And then like,
how's your
gonna
eye feel?
have a guy.
Is that
If,
is that good?
what does it do? I don't know. It does a lot of science stuff that I can't really explain to a plebe like you.
Yeah, no, trust me, this is important.
And so I was like, okay, if you're going to have a person blow in your eye, a stranger with their spittle and blow air in your eye, a doctor, probably
I would let
is
Elizabeth
more
Montgomery do it.
blow in your eye. But I was like, maybe before that though, it was more like an executioner. It was like someone from town. It's like,
Just
all right,
bringing
we're
a
ready.
pinch hitter.
And they came in wearing a mask, like a GIMP mask, and they unzip it. And it's just like, fuck, I know that's Greg.
Yeah.
Greg
I know that
has
breath.
that body shape. Yeah. And it's like, "Puh." It's like the doctor's like, look, I can blow in your eye because this needs to be done.
Greg, you're an onion salesman. We all know it's you.
But okay. It worked well with the optometrist and in the moment and the riff.
Yeah.
I think all of that could be a legit bit. What do you
I
think?
enjoyed it.
Okay.
I also have a lot of eye problems. So like I'm very familiar with that stupid air blowing machine that I hate. I also there's one with like a little hair that they poke your eyeball with now. You know that guy?
No, thank you.
Yeah, it sucks. And yeah, I think
You have to look at the eye blowing machine.
You
Is
like-
yours, and is it always?
you
is
like
it
hold
the,
your eye open and they like poke your eyeball with a thing to like test your pressure or whatever.
I'm not talking. I don't want to talk about that. I don't.
Oh, okay. No.
I have to go to an eye exam. I haven't gone to one in 2 years, and I have to go to one at the beginning of the year. But when you're doing the eye blowing thing, which sounds way sexy, is it look at this hot air balloon? Is that the way it always is?
There's a hot air balloon. Sometimes it's a
Yeah,
house at
right.
the end of the road.
Which again, what's the reason for all like? Oh, it makes me hate hot air balloons or houses at the end of roads now.
Well, hot air balloons are stupid. So I don't remember. Is that when they do it? The hot air balloon?
I think is like, look at this hot air balloon that's blowing air to keep it afloat. If that's how hot air balloons
It's
work.
not.
But like, I don't. Well, I mean,
Well,
I'm pretty
it's
sure
they
it's,
heat air is kind of it's in the
Yeah.
name.
yeah, hot air balloon.
Yeah. So they don't blow air. They just have a propane burner that
I mean,
heats
it's
the air
getting-
in the balloon.
Blown, yeah, and it raises it up.
People
in
have frequently
science.
blown in balloons. It's a romantic setting, but the air is being heated, but it's not blown.
But isn't that funny that like
There's
we-
not a tank of
we
air.
we just take for granted, like when you go and see optometrists, it's like, all right, sit down, and this is where we're gonna go blow air in your eye, and like we're all just like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, my eyes are terrible. They're real bad, and I would love to see stuff good. So I will take them at their word when they're like, "We got to do
They'll
that."
be like, I gotta put your face in like a hostile saw-like machine, and I'm gonna tickle your eyeball with a feather.
You've seen
you're just like,
Clockwork
"Yep."
Orange, right? We're gonna do that, but you'll be seeing
Yes.
so right by the end of the day, man. It's like, okay, I guess.
And then by the end of it, you're like, so is my vision like 1,000? And they're like, no, turns out we can't help you. And it's
Yeah.
just like, just
They're like,
fucking
no,
do all
man,
that stuff."
actually, your prescription is so jacked up that about half the time when you try to order glasses online, they're just gonna tell you no. It's like, oh, okay.
Rejected.
Yeah, that's happened to me a lot lately. Where it's like, oh, can I get this prescription in these frames?" And they're like, "It's just the technology isn't there yet, man." You
Like, I'm so sorry, but actually, what we can't, like, you picked out some really cool frames, but the only thing we can put your prescription in is this pair of googly eyes or Elton John glasses. Sorry.
yeah,
So
they're
sorry.
like, how did you even see to fill this form out, kid? It is
yeah, you
unreal.
dumb.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Well, I did find out because I was talking to my mommy recently because I'm a good son and I love my mommy about all the eye stuff I've been dealing with, like the double vision and all that. And she started laughing in my face about it. Like her reaction to and I want to be clear. Like sometimes I will be talking to people and I'll make little jokes along the way, as is my want. But I wasn't doing that. I was just pretty dryly being like, "Yeah, I got these prism lenses now. That's taking some getting used to because when I look at something up close, there's two of them." And she just starts laughing uncontrollably, and I was like, "What about this is funny?" And basically her answer was, "There's just so much wrong with you." And I don't understand why.
She said that, like, she flashes back to her, like, smoking and drinking, riding
I
roller
don't think my
coasters
parents
when
ever
she's pregnant
smoked,
with you.
to their credit.
Oh, really? No.
I mean, maybe like once, but
Reefer.
Yeah. They
Does
love
Teresa
jazz
Tickle smoke
cigarettes.
reefer? Yes. Zooted.
Well, she's like she starts because I do. She's not wrong. There's a lot wrong with me. Like I have an autoimmune disease. My eyes are jacked up. I
Stop
got
bragging.
comically bad seasonal allergies. Like she's not wrong,
You're
but
awkward.
she's yeah.
You smell bad. No
Right.
one likes you.
I have
Yeah.
ADD. I'm probably on the autism spectrum. And she's like, "I don't know where you get this from." And I was like, "It's pretty clearly
You.
from you. What do you mean?"
It's you.
Like, I know there's a big debate, nature versus nurture, over how people turn out. But, lady, you're both sides of that coin. I don't know what to tell you. Because she followed it up. She's like, "Well, your grandfather did have, like, pretty severe double vision." I was like, "Yeah, dog." Like, then I got it. But I learned it from watching you. Because my grandfather, late in life, had an eye patch that I didn't ask about, I wasn't like,
Have you worked this into any of your?
no, that's what I'm
set?
trying to do right now.
Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't at
for it.
like 15 or whatever, been like, "So you hitting the high seas? Like, what's up?" "What's up, Grandpa?" But my mom told me it's because of the double vision, because they tried. He had prism lenses like I have now. He just had a red dot circle in one lens because it was supposed to like trick his eye into focusing in the right direction, I guess. They tried that. They tried the prisms, and then it wasn't working. So eventually he's like, "You know what? Screw it. Just cover it up." And he just wore an eye patch. And I'm like, "Oh, so now it is just like, when do I patch up? Like, I know it's coming. When's my time? When do I take to the high seas?"
In eye patches, it's so funny. Can you think of any other garment that if you as Glenn Tickle right now, dressed in your Glenn Tickle cosplay,
t-shirt,
if you took off your glasses and put on an eye patch, you are now cosplaying as a pirate Glenn Tickle.
Yeah.
Is there any one piece, maybe a monocle? And that's another eye thing.
The thing is, if I get an eye patch,
a ball cap,
you gotta do eye patch monocle combo, because it would solve the double vision, right? Because I only have one eye, but my eyesight is still bad. So he had an eye patch over glasses. Seems unnecessary to me. Eye patch one eye, monocle the other eye. That's what you do.
Wow.
I think by like
pirate.
I think by like mid-50s, that's going to be the look.
That's awesome. You're like Two-Face. Like one of you's a pirate, one of you's a fancy British
I'm
man
half
that's like
Monopoly
constantly
man,
arguing.
Half Jack Sparrow.
Yeah. But because you are half and half, so pirates have an eye patch, and then the other side of their face, they are still that pirate. But if you were splitting down the half of a fancy British man and a pirate, the pirate doesn't have an eye, so it's constantly like, "What does that treasure look like, monocle man?"
Yeah. Well, do you know why pirates wear eye patches?
to look through the telescope, right?
No, you wouldn't be able to see through the eye patch to look through a telescope. What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying the other eye, like the single focus.
Sort
like,
of.
kinda how
you
close one
can
eye.
just close one eye and look through a telescope.
Yeah, but they do it with the eye patch to save some time.
Sometimes it is because their eye did get blowed up or poked out with a sword, but the practical reason of going above and below deck on a boat, so you know how like it takes your eyes a while to adjust to
Yeah.
very bright or very
I have
dark.
motion sickness as
So
well.
you got dark eye over here. You're above
Dark
deck. Then you go below deck, swap them over, right? Then you got the eye that's adjusted to the dark, ready to go. You cover the light eye because then when you go back above deck, you don't want to have to readjust. You can just boop, boop, boop.
You are fascinating. I'm going to be so educated by the time we're done doing this podcast.
Can I tell you the urge to not include that fact as part of the joke is because like I genuinely
There's
think
no joke there.
I genuinely think it's pretty interesting. I do not think it's funny, but my inability to not tell people a fun little fact that I know is the joke I have about the zebras escaping the zoo in Baltimore turns into a history lesson about the Great Emu War of 1932 because it's a weird thing and I love talking about it.
Funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that I figured out how to make that story funny. I have to do that for the eye patch thing.
My knee jerk, and it's obviously would not fit in your voice, and I'm not saying it's well thought out or also funny, is like if you were a single guy who a choice was wearing the eye patch is because then if things got hot and steamy and you had to go under covers,
yeah,
you'd have that eye ready and you'd be even better at the task you're about ready to perform. So it's just like, why are you wearing the eye patch? Like, you'll find out, lady. Like, just
I
you
could
wait.
pull that on my wife, you know? I could give her the old
Yeah,
patchy,
but
you know?
But what I'm saying is if you incorporate, so if you gave that history and you're like, so like, I didn't think it was weird that when I was single, I would wear an eye patch on the third date with women. And they'd be like, I just had 2 dates with you where you didn't have an eye patch. Why are you wearing it? And you're like, you'll find out later, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe.
See, this is why it would be fun, or will be fun, to like do co-headlining shows. Because let's say we do a night where you go up first. You do that air bit, that you do that thing. Yeah. Then I come out talking about eye patches, and then I can call back to not one of my jokes, but one of your jokes.
Yeah. And make it better and funnier, and then people are like, that's why he goes on after.
I imagine we would alternate. Or do it based on like who's got home field advantage, you know?
In the fame got so big that you're just like, Glenn Tickle doesn't open for anybody.
No, remember last week when I was trying to talk that other kid into headlining because I was real sick? Oh, balls. I looked up who the kid was, and I forget. I'm going to try again real quick because I want
that kid. That kid was David Chappelle.
This little kid, Davy Shab.
Davy Shab. Davy Chappie. David Chappie was his original stage name. So we're gonna get that. That is what is gonna be the. You look that up, and I will say I watched this.
Yeah,
Superman
you talk.
teaser,
You talk for a
Superman.
little bit. Ding dong.
Yeah. And you were like, I said I don't know why I love Superman as much as I do, and then I figured it out. Is when people talk about loving the United States and like patriotism, that's how I feel Superman is. There is just this thing of positivity and hope for we can be better, we can do better, and I'm an alien, but I'm constantly striving to be the best American, like better than anybody else. Like, I love the spirit of Superman. Maybe not all versions of the properties and everything, but I am looking forward to the James Gunn because I think that is what he's going to be bringing, which has been missing the Boy Scout quality. So I'm looking forward to the movie. Saw the teaser trailer. Trailer will be out by the time this drops on Friday.
Yeah.
Because it drops tomorrow. Okay.
I found him. I think I said his name was Paul last week, but it is actually Jake Hovis.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar
Yeah.
with Jake Kovis.
He is also from Kentucky, and he
Yeah,
was
I don't
the
know
one.
him, but
We did this one show together. We're Facebook friends, but I don't think we've worked together
and then
since.
you stabbed him.
Yeah,
You stabbed him. He
Gave
bled
him-
out. You left.
I gave him a horrible illness in Canada and left him there to die. No, but he was the one where I was like, hey, what if you headline this show, buddy?
Hey, what if I kept all the money that they are giving?
Yeah.
me
Just to be
headline?
clear, I wasn't like, we can swap checks too. It was
I will
purely-
bring this up to bring up another podcast that is better than ours, where comedians talk. Is Maria Bamford on Birbiglia's episode from a few months ago? She talked about
Well, she's in the
idea
Mount
that,
Rushmore, so
yeah. And she is also someone who I'm very attracted to. Again, it doesn't have to be female, male. Like I said, I am is equally attracted to Phil Hartman.
Phil Hartman,
But she
handsome,
mentions-
handsome guy,
Handsome man.
good looking
Handsome
fella. No
Persona,
question.
like, no. Also a pirate,
Also a pirate.
Captain Carl. And so
Probably his hottest as Captain Carl.
I think his hottest is his
Well, the joke is that
film noir
Captain
detective.
Carl is not an attractive character.
like at all, and like is with Smoke Show Miss Yvonne.
Yeah. How
And,
he
like-
pulls Miss Yvonne is incredible
Well, because he's, I mean,
because he's Phil Hartman.
the sexual tension. Yeah, because he's Phil Hartman. And he's always wearing like long johns, like pants, like with a flap.
Yeah.
Again, what I ended up being into later on in comedy or in love or in sex or in lust, you could trace back to like being a kid and like Pee Wee Herman, like all that stuff. It all makes sense in the psychology of it all. But Maria Bamford mentions about she didn't realize that openers were kind of still getting paid the same amount of money that they were 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And she's like, I did a show, and she's like, I made the mistake, and she's like, but I'm correcting it now, where I got paid to do this big show or whatever, and I asked my opener how much they're getting paid, and they were like $300,
Yeah,
or
way less than they
$200.
deserved.
And she's like, oh, I'm getting paid like $500,000
Yeah.
for this special. I need to give you some of that.
I do genuinely love that she talks so much about the finance of stand-up comedy, because again, like I said, I think everyone is uncomfortable talking about money. I'm uncomfortable with like the fact that it exists, but she did say, I forget what interview or where I heard her talking about it, but basically she broke it down to like, well, look, if you're the feature, if you're doing 30 minutes and I'm doing an hour, you're doing a third of the work, so you should make a third of the money. And I was like, I don't know if I actually agree with that specifically, because let's say Maria Bamford hires me to do a feature set.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing in a third of the money. No one is coming to a Maria Bamford show because they heard I'm going to be there. So absolutely, I think because people are coming to see her specifically, they're banking on her name. I'm not saying, features should only get paid $100. Absolutely pay people a fair amount of money. And I'm fine if someone gets overpaid once in a while, But also, if she's the one paying them, pay them whatever you want. I'm not saying they deserve less. But if you, let's say you and me are doing a show, and I'm doing 45 and you're doing 30 minutes, no one's there to see either of us. I don't think it really matters.
No one came.
Yeah.
And we're not getting paid at all, and the place is asking us to leave.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not like looking at how long we did to break down the time, but even like the best paid shows that I do are typically college gigs, and I will bring openers with me, not because I need an opener. Like I can fill an hour, which is usually what I'm contracted to
better.
do. It is.
Yeah.
It makes the show better. Colleges specifically, because college students show up late to things. So if I start at 7, the room will be maybe a third full, but by 7:15, then there's an audience in there. So if I do a lot of jokes in the beginning, setting up who I am, setting up stuff that I'm going to call back later, but half the audience hasn't been there for the beginning part, then the second
come
half,
in and you get an eye patch on,
Yeah.
and they're just like, I don't.
I do a bit in The End of Good Grief and on the Dry Bar special where I say that my then 1-year-old daughter wrote a joke and she spits water out of her mouth and then I do it. But the joke is that she doesn't do it every time. So like I go to take a sip of water, the audience expects that I'm going to do it a second time. The joke is she doesn't do it every time. My baby's not a hack. At colleges, before the pandemic, I want to be clear, before the pandemic,
You were spitting on.
when I would do this bit at colleges, I would do that bit in the first couple of minutes because then I have a trick I get to do whenever I want of when I go to take a sip of water, now the audience is like, oh, is he going to do it? Because I would do it about a third of the time. I would just let the water fall out of my mouth as a callback because it's a dumb, fun thing. But in like a special or whatever, that doesn't work as well. It works better at the end. But with colleges, like, right, if you aren't there for the first 10 minutes where I do that bit explaining why I'm occasionally just spitting water all over myself, then you show up late, you see an adult man who can't drink water and everyone's laughing at him. You're like, what is happening? Like,
This is cruel. College kids are cruel.
Yeah. So I like bringing openers for college gigs just to kill the first couple of minutes to get the audience in there. I brought my friend
Sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, and because a trick I learned from Jay Black, basically. He's a comic that I've worked with a lot. He does a lot of colleges. When I was starting out, like he helped me get into APCA, and like he brought me to open for him for my first college gig. And he told me basically along the way, he's like, just so you know, it doesn't matter how you do. Like you don't go up and be so bad that I have to have a meeting. But
yeah,
he's like, I want you to do well. I'm bringing you because I think you're a good comedian. You will do well. Don't be in your head about how it's going. I just need you to kind of exist on stage for 10 minutes so that when I go up, they're ready for the show to start. And hearing that as a younger comic driving to your first college gig, I think he meant it to be like reassuring, but it was like, well, then what's even the point of me being here? But then when you start doing colleges on your own, you're like, oh yeah, actually, if I could just bring somebody to talk for 10 minutes, it would go better for everybody except for that person. And who cares?
And it's so much better. And it's so much better though to be pretty direct and upfront in saying that.
Yeah.
One, because it's better to be honest than I have seen plenty of working in a comedy club for years as a server and MC. I have seen plenty of comedians who bring someone to open for them because they want them to fail.
Yeah, or they will purposely book somebody to make themselves look good. That's not what I mean at all. No. But
I think it is as harsh as it is to say of being like, do you want to do the show? I am sacrificing you.
Yeah. I'm like, you will probably not have a great set is the reality of the situation.
But you will get paid to do live comedy.
Yeah.
And it's getting your
We'll hang out. You will meet the people at the college. I can't promise anything, but maybe they book you next time. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is just like, yeah. I mean, I've done that for Jay. I did that for Jay a couple of times. And then when I started doing colleges and was doing them myself, it's like, yeah, it's harder with no opener, and the college gigs pay well enough where it's like I can justify paying someone pretty well to fill this spot. And like I could also get somebody to do it for $50, you know?
Yeah.
But
what I was going to say.
I feel like a dickhead
clubs,
where it's like, look, I'm getting paid
that are
$2,500 for this show. So
yes,
I'm making you have not on purpose, but like what will probably be kind of a rough set. So I'm more than happy to pay you pretty well to do that.
And
I
but
don't
that's what it's
remember
getting back to is
the last
comedy clubs
time I did that
are
or what I paid them. It was probably Tristan Miller, and I don't. It depends because like colleges pay different. I'm trying not to be cagey about the number, but it's like I might have given them $200.
Yes, and it's again. Is it hotel provided? Is it food?
Yeah.
Like
right. It's like I will come
deals,
pick you up at your apartment. I will drive you to a college in Connecticut. I will drop you off at your apartment. I'll buy you dinner at Cheesecake Factory on the way.
And there's an agreement, like again, Kim Sherwood this past weekend, who we have an agreement, like we go to a Denny's a lot of time or a diner or a place, whatever, one of us covers the bill. I usually get the hotel unless the venue has paid for it. But yeah, but comedy clubs are still paying MCs $50 a show.
Yeah.
Or $40 a show. And that is hot garbage.
It's almost like comedy clubs aren't the best place for comedians. Is my lukewarm hot take of the past couple of years of like I'm sure I've talked about it with you before. I don't have a lot of luck getting into comedy clubs.
Yeah.
I perform a lot of colleges. I perform a lot of private corporate gigs. Anytime I try to get into clubs, my success rate pretty low. When I get there and we do the shows usually go good. It's just. But then the show goes good and they pay me $100. And it's like, why did I come? Why did I come to Indiana for this? I just had a club reach out to me. They're like, hey, we would love to book you. When can you come out next year? Here's some dates. Let us know your rate, which I don't like. I don't like being asked what my rate is. You say a number first and I'll let you know how I feel about that number and we'll go from there. So I threw out to them. I was like, yep, I'm free these dates. Could you do 1,000 for the weekend? And then no response. Not, that's actually a little high. Or like, what if we pay less, but we'll cover your hotel? Because I'm looking at it.
Split?
Yeah, I'm looking at it as, all right, I have to get to where this club is, stay there for a weekend. So that's 2 nights in a hotel. That's meals. That's travel. And then like, I need it to be worth my time. So rough estimate, $1,000. If they came back and they're like, that's a little high, we can do, 700, but we'll put you up. Okay.
And we'll provide, we'll provide this. But what's funny is, and I get the trickery and the business quote of it all, is they're like, man, wouldn't it be great if this guy comes in with a lower ballpark figure and we can take advantage and save some money? And make all the business and make all the money.
Or if it was close, I've talked about a lot. I'm in New Jersey. That's where I live. If a venue in New Jersey was like, could you we don't have a lot, but like, you want to come do a show for like, I don't know, $200? Yeah. There's no part of New Jersey that takes me longer than 3 hours to get to. Like I'm there and back that same night. I'm happy to come.
Oh, and I will clip this. There are places I've reached out to that they get reached out to a lot. Brickies.
Yeah.
We've talked to you. I'm cutting this in a clip. Brickies, Glenn and I come.
I performed at you. To be fair, I was booked there and I had to cancel because some family health stuff. But
I'm clipping this out. Book Glenn and I for the Daddio tour.
Yeah.
And we will come. We will come to the show.
We'll come out.
Yeah, just hashtag Comedy Club, Brickies. There's a handful of
they
these
did
that I've been in contact with.
That world record show where it was like the longest continuous stand-up set. I went out for that. It was a lot of fun. It was, I genuinely wasn't sure because it's the thing of like being awkward. And I know, oh God, is it Kevin? Kevin Rupert runs Brickies.
Sounds from
I met him. We did a show a while ago. I don't know a ton of other Miamisburg, Ohio-based comedians. So
they're supposed to be opening up a Brickies in Cincinnati. So I'm going to say Brickies, the Commonwealth Sanctuary in Bellevue, Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm going to tag them.
I reached out to them. They reached out
Comedy Club.
to me.
Yeah.
Commonwealth reached out to me, I think, on Instagram with a message, and I replied like, "Hey, would love to come tell jokes at the venue. They replied with like, this is the person's email. We do booking through there. It's like, okay.
Sean, Braley.
You started.
They're all going to be tagged. And also you and I could walk to that show and you could stay at our house and they could save money on
and it's
lodging.
Like, I mean, I know I started this rant by saying comedy clubs aren't the best venues, but
we want to be booked at your comedy club.
There are obviously, I mean, there's great ones. Like I've been at Bricky's. It's a fun room. I mean, I was at Bricky's at a weird special event where they were doing a 6-day long comedy show. But no, like there's good venues, but it's like Steel Stacks that I mentioned earlier, where I perform more than probably anywhere else.
Steel Stacks
is it's my favorite venue. Store. It's run by an arts nonprofit, so they can't sell. Like they have to hire out the bar stuff, so they don't factor that into how they look at whether a show was a success, which refreshing as hell as a comedian, you know. Like they look at ticket sales. That's a big thing, but it's not like, oh, you know, like this crowd wasn't like a bunch of drinkers. So like we're only gonna hire like people who bring out real dirtbags who are gonna put away a 6-pack in a night. They're like, no, look, we want good comedy. Like they have standards. I love it.
So I'm going to clip this out. I'm going to tag all these places, book the Daddio comedy tour in 2025. We don't have anything official yet.
I mean, I can't promise that Steel Stacks will let us do
Comedy
it,
Club.
but I mean, basically, my arrangement with Steel Stacks, anytime I want to do a show, is I just ask them what dates they have available, and then I pick one of those. But
I think we should. And I'm mentioning Glenn said, I'm never coming back to Florida.
I said, ever, I'm gonna saw it off Bugs Bunny style and send it into the ocean.
Bye. But I will tag this other club because I've had a great time and I think you would love it. Gregory's Upstairs Comedy Club at Cocoa Beach. I've done it 2 or 3 times. It's been awesome every time. Glenn will figure out a way to trick Glenn down there.
I would go back to Florida.
Daddios.
If for no other reason than to see my aunt and cousin's dog.
It had to be the 4 audience members.
Their dog Oreo that I got to hang out with was a real highlight of that trip for me. But also, I think there was a club in Port St. Lucie, which would have saved them the commute to drive down to Boca if we just did the show.
What's the name of the club?
I don't remember. But we were driving around and or just like a venue that did comedy night. It might not have been like a full-time club. I will go anywhere. Like I'm fine. Unless it's like a place that I went before and had a horrible time. Yeah. And even the places we went on that trip, like audience turnout was minimal, but I don't, I mean, I think honestly that's more on us than them. I wouldn't be like, I'm never going back to Boca Raton. I'll go back to Boca Raton.
I'll go Boca Black Box, Off the Hook Comedy Club.
Yeah.
Probably would rather do a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But yes, so
right. Or knowing now that like we'd really have to put a lot more promotion into getting people out, get some boots on.
We'd have to have a sweet podcast with a really cool name.
Yeah, or just get our new open mic friends. Be like, hey, can you guys hang some flyers? Like, we'll get you tickets to the show. We'll maybe kick you some money, but like, can you just go around?
Get you on the show.
Yeah, like we'll give you 5 minutes, something. Which is again the benefit of going back to a place is like, well, now you know a couple people. They'll probably come. Maybe they won't, but like they might tell somebody.
So there it is. We'll try to bank another episode before
or
Christmas
we can just cut
break.
this in 2. This is our longest one yet, I believe. We can probably just cut this bad boy up into 2. But we could probably.
I'd like to talk to you again if we can talk again on Friday. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I have to look. I know I have shows and stuff the rest of the week, but we'll try to squeeze it in.
So that's right. Daddio Tour coming to you at least in some way, shape, or form 2025. I'm Ricky Glore.
I'm Glenn Tickle.
I played this game.
How's the bluegrass one again? a long episode, put a long theme out.